So we've come to our final video on the EPIC framework. Remember that this framework by Facebook consists of 4 building blocks to help you develop a strong brand: existence, purpose, identity, and connection. This video focuses on the last portion of the EPIC framework, connection. Connection refers to the voice and style your brand adopts in written and verbal communication. Like the visual design choices we looked at earlier, your brand voice is built from understanding your brand's story, purpose, and values. Also, like the visual design choices earlier, choosing your brand's voice will help create a unique brand identity and literally and figuratively speak to your audience. First, let's define what a brand voice is. Actually, the way I've been speaking to you this whole time is through a deliberately chosen voice. But what if I used a different voice for this course? I could have said, "Hello and welcome to our session on Framework Overview." Our previous lesson deconstructed and distilled the elements traditionally attributed to brand creation. Yet, as technology continues to evolve, both the form and the function required to market in a capitalist economy will alter. Or I could have said, "Hey folks, are you excited to learn about branding? This is going to be awesome. So let's go." Very different, right, aren't they? As you probably figured out from that example, the voice of your brand is the way in which your brand speaks, the words it uses, and the feel it communicates. Should your brand voice be authoritative and confident, friendly and personal, fun and quirky? Would your brand suggest you peruse its website or check it out? Would your brand use short, pithy sentences or long, more stylistic sentences? It comes down to what will resonate with your audience. But how do you know what's going to resonate with your audience? This is where creating a persona for your business comes in handy. Instead of thinking about their audience as a demographic, many businesses create a persona or an example customer so they can think about one person when they're creating content. Let's create a persona for Kalla and Ivy. We know who the target audience is, and we could think of the audience as being someone with money to spend on a subscription, who appreciates flowers, who may be interested in sustainability, who probably lives in the city. But see how hard it would be to narrow down a voice? Instead, let's think about Holly, a mid-30s professional with disposable income who works in the city, bikes to work to save the environment, and loves having fresh flowers in her apartment. So she bought a subscription. She also has a subscription for her office because she loves adding some organic aesthetic to her stuffy workplace. Now we have a clear idea of who we're creating content for and which voice we'd use to talk to Holly directly. Marketers create personas to help them imagine what their target audience is really like. To personify the audience helps to have everyone in the company imagine the same person when they're working on marketing. And it helps to give your persona a name and a face. You can add a picture of what your persona might look like. Once we have a persona, it's easier to define our tone of voice. We can use this template to help identify the kind of voice we want to use in our branding, and that would resonate with Holly. Kalla and Ivy would be a bit more on the serious side, but not so serious as to turn away customers who want to connect with a real person. We've already determined that we want to be friendly and approachable, so the brand voice would be on the casual side. With the creative influence and inspiration in this business, we would certainly choose our brand voice to be slightly irreverent, but not so irreverent as to offend. Finally, in a business that thrives on connection, you would expect Kalla and Ivy to have an enthusiastic voice as well. Above all, always make sure your brand voice is authentic. As you can see from this example, if you keep the persona in mind, it's easier to determine what tone of voice will help to make a real connection. Let's look at 2 real-life examples. First, here's MailChimp, a brand that provides software to help businesses send emails to customers. Here are 2 snapshots of their website. And here is one of my favorite images from the site, the sweaty monkey finger. This is the image you get right before you send out your email. you know, this is the type of software that you can use to send out mass emails. So I'm sure you can imagine how at times pushing the send button gets a bit stressful. I think they captured that feeling really well here. The way SurveyMonkey communicates in their text and images is all part of their brand tone of voice. If I were to characterize them in our framework, I would say the brand is funny, but not so much that it is comical. They're a software brand after all. A bit more casual than formal, with some irreverence, and they're enthusiastic, but not extremely so. Now let's look at Skittles, the candy. Here's their website, and here's a screenshot of their Instagram account. Skittles' brand tone of voice is kind of out there. They are funny and quirky in an almost absurd way. Here is how I would describe their tone of voice in our brand spectrum. I'd say they're funny, very casual, definitely irreverent, and very enthusiastic. So you can see how brands can really differ in how they communicate and connect. Now that you have a sense of what voice is and how it can be used, start looking for distinct brand voices in the businesses you interact with. You'll start reading emails from businesses and social media posts differently, and you may even start to wonder if you're the persona that brand has in mind. This may finish our look at the EPIC framework, and while the 4 aspects we looked at here, existence, purpose, identity, and connection, will get your brand well established, there are many other ways to create your branding and many more strategies to sustain that branding once you have it. Still, now you have a useful framework to carry with you, and I can assure you that this will come in handy when you start creating content for your social media marketing, whether it's organic or free content or advertising.